Okay, good morning. Welcome to this live Q&A as part of our Access to HE Diploma package. Just to let everyone know, I'm going to wait a couple of minutes just to see if people start kind of filtering in. We've got 2 student ambassadors here with us this morning, which is excellent. We're waiting on our third, but she was having some technical issues yesterday, so it might be a little bit difficult to get a hold of her. But I think we'll make do with just our 2 ambassadors. So yeah, just give it a couple of minutes before we get into the swing of things. Just to kind of let everybody know, this event's being recorded, and so we'll circulate the recording afterwards. And if you can, please do ask any kind of questions, or if you've got any comments, please do use either the conversation feature or the Q&A feature. Either is fine. We'll keep an eye on both to make sure that we get any questions answered. We've had a few sent in advance, which is great. So we'll ask our lovely ambassadors those, and we'll get started in a few minutes. I think that's all the housekeeping. Yeah, don't have to do the fire exit thing, so that's good. Yeah. And one thing as well is that if you're having trouble accessing the Q&A feature or the conversation feature, what I would recommend is kind of leaving the event and coming back in again. We've had that issue on a few other kind of meetings and events that we've attended, where the conversation feature just disappears. So yeah, so that exiting and coming back in, it's the new turn it on and off again. So. And if you want to introduce yourselves in the chat, please do. That's absolutely fine with us. Funnily enough, we can't actually even see who's attending. We can see how many are there, but not who. So I'm sure there's some familiar faces there. Right, so I think we'll probably get started. And I will let our student ambassadors introduce themselves. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hand over to James and then Hadia to introduce themselves, and then it will be back to my dulcet tones to ask them a few questions. So James, if you want to get started.
Yeah. Morning, everyone. Yeah, I'm James. I'm a PhD student studying history at the moment at Brunel University. I started off my studies at the Open University as a access student. Studying a broad range from history. It was mainly classical history. So I've actually gone down the path of just straight history. Did my undergraduate in history, and I've done a master's in military history. I started off working 38 hours a week full time, and then doing my degree part time. That's one of the reasons that I chose an access route, because I wanted to get an idea of how much time it would actually take for me to do. I then in 2017 made the conscious decision to give up my job to then come to Brunel to finish off my degree full time. Don't have any family commitments, which is quite lucky because it has enabled me to actually do a PhD. I had the recognition of my undergraduate degree winning an award. It won the best contribution to history. I believe that was on the basis of going through the access route because it gave me some vital skills. And then my PhD, which I've just started this week, is following up on that undergraduate dissertation that I did, and is actually looking at the role of the Channel Islands throughout World War II. So yeah, it's been a long journey. I've been studying since 2013, and I've just signed up for another 6 years worth of study because I've decided to do my degree, my PhD part time. But yeah, that's a little bit about me. So yeah.
Cool, thanks James. And Hadia, if you'd like to sort of introduce yourself.
Hi guys, my name is Hadia. I'm currently studying in Middlesex University in my 3rd year studying computer networks. I studied business studies as an access course in Richmond College. And yeah, so the route was quite different and challenging, but I didn't see myself doing the same thing I'd done, which was a plus point for me, as I knew that I could have the access course. I could use the access course to get into a university and do whatever I want. So Yeah, that's about it. I'm studying computer networks and yeah, hopefully graduating this year.
Cool. Okay, thanks, Hadia. So we'll start off with some of the questions we got sent in advance. First off, I guess, and James, this will be thinking back quite a few years for you. So sorry about that.
That's all right.
But we'll start off with just kind of thinking, if you think about where kind of perhaps our attendees in terms of where they're at in their access course right now, you know, they've only been doing it for a few weeks, but they've got to start thinking about that UCAS application fairly soon. If you could maybe think back about kind of what would you say your top tips for applying to university through an access course were? So for instance, when to start, the personal statement itself, anything like that. Yeah, so James first and then Hadia.
Yeah, I guess my tips were I looked around several different universities before I actually decided to choose the Open University. I looked at Reading. I did actually look at Brunel. I looked at the Open University as well, and I looked at it on on the balance of what would fit around my lifestyle. So I was very conscious. I wanted to keep working. I didn't actually want to give up work at that stage. So I wanted to be able to have the best of both worlds. I wanted to be able to get a degree and also continue working. So that was where I started off first of all, and I looked at who provided the best in terms of part-time, and it came down in the end to the Open University because it came down to cost. It was a lot cheaper to do an access course through the Open University at that stage. Bearing in mind this was back in 2013, it cost me £25, so instead of paying a couple of £1,000. So it was really that swung it for me. So my tip is have a look, see what matches your lifestyle. I was unsure if I wanted to actually continue on after an access course, so it was actually pretty much the cost side that involved me. As for the personal statement side, I did my personal statement quite early on. I actually sought some help though from some family friends who actually gone through the access route, and they actually helped me put together my personal statement. I went back over it several times and redrafted it because I kept coming up with different things I wanted to put in, but I kept mine quite short, concise. But I also mentioned in there that I was a mature student, and universities do look out for mature students on their applications. So it is well worth mentioning that if you are a mature student, because the universities look at that quite favourably because we have life skills as mature students. And they do like that aspect of it. So I suppose those are my two top tips: is have a look around like the universities that are out there, see what access courses they offer, see if it matches to what your lifestyle is. And yeah, with regards to your personal statement, is keep it short, concise, don't waffle, put in that you are a mature student, because like I said, yeah, the universities look at that favourably. So yeah, those are my tips anyway, and that's how I chose my access course.
Cool, thanks. And Hadia, same question.
So wait, this is choosing top tips to applying to uni, or
just any tips. It can be about the personal statement, it can be about how to choose a university. Yeah, it's completely up to you. Yeah.
So first you need to decide on what you want to study at university, because you would need to know that that's the course that's going to be with you the whole, like, the entire life. Until you're not sure on what you want to do, you need to research different like courses or what best interests you. And personally, I was stuck between law and something to do with technology. I was researching. I asked my mum, I asked my brothers, just for like any advice, anyone around you, to obviously, because they know what you can do, what's best in you and everything. So it's best asking what your skills are and everything. So speak to someone who knows more about you, so you can know what you can do. If it's a practical course, you can choose that. If it's a written one, choose that. But choose what you want to do first of all. Second of all, try to prepare like your personal statement in advance. So try to get many drafts done, many like send it out to your family, to your friends, make changes. We all know that one if it's just one draft, it's not going to be right. We're going to do many changes to it. I know I've done about 5 different drafts, and my one was the approved one. So you need to know that the first one is not going to be the right one. Secondly, for your uni applications, just search the different unis you want to go to, location, finance, all the different aspects of what you want to, like, you need to know if you want to move out, you want to live in, what the costs are and everything, what different offers, different facilities, and start planning the applications right now. I would say like November, October. And yeah, see what the different courses are, what the modules are about, the assessment criteria and things like that, so you can plan in advance, and that way you could see what is needed from you when you start uni. Also, personally, like you guys would have careers advisors at uni. So speak to them, see what they offer. You can go to open days or now open like Zoom meetings and stuff, and see what the different unis offer, and that would be quite helpful.
Great, thank you, Hadia. Cool, so we've also got our third student ambassador who's just joined us. So this is Jane. So Jane, obviously, sorry, I'm just trying to unmute you. But I don't seem to have the power. Great. So you kind of missed the introductions, but there we go, you've unmuted yourself, good. I'm glad one of us could do it. Basically I asked James and Hadia just to kind of introduce themselves, the course they're currently on, and then also kind of their access course. So if you could just do that, and then also if you'd like to kind of answer the question around sort of top tips for beginning your application and maybe like choosing your uni as well.
Okay, thank you. Apologies for being late. I was rushing from work.
No problem at all. That's life, innit?
Yeah, my name's Jane. I'm a third year undergrad student at Brunel University studying psychology. So and I came in through Access to Higher Education through Uxbridge College is where I got my diploma from. What I did was I was quite fortunate in the fact that I'd been voluntarily working in a field which really interested me, so it was just sort of natural course that when I went to the college to find out about courses that were available on the Access, health and social care was what I applied for because it fitted in with what I was doing at the time. So I started my research really early. So I went to the really early open days at the beginning of the year in February to make sure that I had all the necessary requirements for what I needed to get onto the Access course. So it gave me plenty of time to prepare for when I needed to apply. And as well, it gave me time as well to sort of search around a little bit and find out what else was on offer and to make absolutely sure it was what I wanted to do, you know. I think the biggest thing for me, I just caught the back end of what was being said about support networks. Well, I was a single mother, I still am a single mum, and I didn't really have any sort of extended family or network outside of the house, so I only had my children. So what I had to do is I had to learn everything from sending an email to just logging into the cloud at college, and I had to get involved with the people that were at college. I had to get a support network in the college. I got to know the staff, and I got to know the students really well too. And my children became my technical sort of tutors. They taught me how to send emails, and when I lost an assignment once, my son taught me about Google Documents and stuff like that. So I would say to anybody, if you are as old as I am and you're not so technical savvy, find out about this stuff first, because it's really important that you're able to save your work in that, because there's nothing worse than losing stuff. But yeah, you know, I found out about the universities that were closest to me, that were offering the courses that I needed to progress in the area that I wanted to progress in. And again, you know, what happened was I started my application really early with my personal statement. I started mine about the end of September. I researched UCAS. I spoke to I went into all the open days at the universities and I picked people's brains and I found out what they did, when they started, what kind of things they spoke about. And again, being a mature student, my biggest assets were my life skills, you know, and I really pumped them into my personal statement, even to the fact about how I parented, any volunteer work that I'd done, previous jobs and skills that I'd picked up. You know, it was all really important stuff, and it set me in good stead because I got accepted into all 5 universities that I applied for. So it must have had something in there that was worth reading. But yeah, I just feel that the best thing for me, because being a mature student, I don't know everybody's situation that's listening. Obviously, I was a mother, single mother. I had to go to work as well, and then running a home. And the access course was really, at one stage, I did actually think it was going to kill me. And, but my biggest asset was my ability to be able to say, listen, I'm really struggling, I need some help, can somebody help me? You know, there's no shame in it at all, and it's the best thing you can do for yourself, because we do struggle, and it is a tough course at times, you know. But if you let people know that you need help, if you explain to them where you're having difficulties, then you will get the support that you need, and they will make sure that you get through it. You know, as for getting my financing, again, I just made sure that I was on top of it early. You know, I never left things till the last minute. I was prepared. I got the information that I needed. I spoke to people. Again, the universities were they were invaluable, the information I got at the open days, because I was able to meet with students that had done access courses, and they could give me all the information and top tips that I needed. And you know, and it basically is, it's just reaching out and asking for help, and your time management's really important. You know, I was useless at that when I first started, but I'm not too good at it now, if I'm honest. As you can see, I was late, but I'm getting there.
Yeah, it's a skill we're all working on. Like, yeah.
But yeah, that's basically really what I can say. I mean, I do know that the universities do prefer mature students, because we're more geared up to what we're doing. Obviously, younger people have got a little bit more time on their hands, whereas for me, it was quite pressing that I needed to focus really on what I was going to do. You know, that I haven't got another chance at this. I haven't got another degree in me, so I'm really focused on what I need to do. I did actually take an abeyance this year because the stuff that was going on with the COVID and that, and I'm able to come back. And again, it's reaching out and asking for help and letting people know I'm struggling. You know, and the academics and fellow students will give you all the information that you need to make sure that you finish whatever it is you started. Yeah. So yeah, I don't really know if there's much else I can say. It's just to make sure that you go to the universities and you make sure that you're prepared with the list of requirements. And this is a thing as well. If you go onto their websites at a particular university and they don't list a qualification that you've got, or they've put one up there that you haven't got, phone them personally, phone admissions, speak to them, say to them, listen, I've done an access course, but it isn't on the list of requirements. Is there anything that you can do? Do you take access students? And sometimes you will find it could be a glitch. It may be that it's just been overlooked, and it is possible that they can come to some sort of arrangement with you. So don't give up if you don't see what you need to see on their website. Contact the university personally and speak to somebody, and you could be luckier that way. You know, that's about it really.
Cool, thank you, Jane. Great, thanks. That was really insightful. So thank you for that. So the next question, and to be fair, like Jane, you touched on it a little bit, but would love to hear kind of James and Hadia's take. So, what do you think the jump was like from an access to HE course to then studying at university? So was it more or less challenging? The intensity, assessment expectations, that kind of thing. So if we start with James and then Hadia, and then we'll come back to Jane.
Yeah. For me, I stayed with the Open University when I moved from an access course to higher education, because they did it all through the same university. I found it quite a huge jump, if I'm honest, although that was partly because I'd just been promoted to a manager role at my job, so I was trying to do too much at once. So it was basically because I was trying to do higher education and a job. I was putting myself under a lot of pressure. It was 16 hours a week I was being expected to do for study, and I was working about 38, 39 hours a week as well. So I found it quite a huge jump, and I found the intensity quite a lot. I actually transferred from Open University to Brunel in my second year. So I actually transferred to Brunel to finish my degree off in my second year. And I found the intensity in especially the assessments, the pace, it changed rapidly. And I found out the expectations were more. But you expect that because you're moving up the education, you're furthering your knowledge, you're becoming an expert in your field. So by the time I finished my bachelor's, obviously you are an expert in your field. So I'm a historian now because that's what I've done my bachelor's in. So you are expecting it to progress and get progressively harder as you go along. But I found that, and this is one of the main reasons I changed to a main university actually, I found that I was getting a lot more support from Brunel. My department at Brunel, which is history and politics, is a very small department. It's not one of the best known history departments in the country by far. It's not one of the top ranked ones, but it is very good at what it does. It offers a lot of support to its students. I lost my uncle last year, for example, and I got a lot of support from my department in order to help me through my master's. That's why, again, I stayed at Brunel to do a master's degree. It is very challenging in terms of getting used to, for example, proper referencing. It's not. I can only speak from the historic side because that's obviously what my degree is in. But my access side, they weren't as strict. We could use Harvard or Chicago, so I used the Harvard referencing system, which is in-text referencing, and it didn't count as much. When I went from that to a higher educational level, we switched from that to Chicago referencing, which is the footnote system, and that again, that was quite challenging getting used to that. It's also getting used to different systems as well, because Open University, for example, used one system, Brunel used a different system. So when I switched as well, from being access straight, I did my first year at Open University, and then I transferred. It was very difficult getting used to a new system, but I did pick it up quite quickly. Again, that was because Brunel offer more support, I find, than what the Open University do. And also, it was the expectation of the reading material compared to what you were getting lecture time. At Brunel, you get about 12, 14 hours worth of lecture in a week. And then with history, and then it's a lot of reading. The reading is what killed me because it is so heavy intensive because you have reading for each subject that you do. So it was a huge leap. I did find there was aspects that were very challenging. I did extremely well on my grades, but that's because I used to go at Brunel for history. You go and collect your essays back in person from your lecturers. You get individual feedback, and when you do that, you feel like you're actually being valued as a student, and they are actually debating it out and giving you constructive criticism of where you've gone wrong. So although the intensity as you're going up the university ladder from year 1 to year 2 to year 3 is getting more intense, that's expected, but you're being given those skills in order to be able to cope with that at the same time. So yes, it was a huge leap from being access to higher education course, but the support level increases as you go up. So you are expected to know more and do more as you go through. But yeah,
okay, cool, interesting. And Hadia, kind of same question. So what was the jump like for you?
So personally, I felt like the access course was more challenging for me. But it's good because it prepares you well for university, as you're used to producing high volume of assignments and you have short deadlines,
Mhm.
and that's quite similar to university as well. Also, obviously, because it's 1 year, it's quite intense. It's so much in like a short period of time, whereas uni's 3 years, so it's all like spaced out.
Yeah.
But you're already prepared for that. So the skills that you've used in your access course, you can use in universities, like organization, time management, your writing skills, the different deadlines, all of that. You've already done. You've already used those skills, so you're quite prepared for uni. But yeah, I feel like first year wasn't as bad as I thought it would be, because access course was difficult. But like second year and then now third year, it gets quite tough, and yeah, it's not going good. But other than that, I think the jump was okay. The jump from GCSE to access course, yes, it was a massive jump, but access to uni, it wasn't as big as I thought it would be.
Okay. And how long did you have in between kind of doing your GCSEs and then doing your access course, Hadia?
About a year or so.
Okay, right. Okay, so you weren't kind of out of education for too long.
I had to take a gap year. Issues.
Yeah.
So after I'd done my GCSE, I took a gap year and then to an access course.
Okay, cool. Cool. So over to Jane. So how did you find the jump?
Yeah, the jump was it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be as well, you know, because the access was so intense. And when I did the access course, our college was changing over for the organisation that oversees the exams, and so there was we were sort of being experimented on as well at the time, so it made it quite difficult, even more so.
Yeah.
But then I found the first year at university, I found the environment easier to study in at university than I did college. Because college is quite a young environment and I'm a mature student, I think I found it a little bit sort of, it was quite strange for me to be surrounded by a lot of these young people when I was trying to study. But at university, everybody sort of seemed more geared up towards their studying, and the environment was better prepared for it. And as well, you know, the first year of university compared to the year that I spent at college, there was absolutely no comparison. I mean, I just had one deadline after another at college.
Yeah.
But I think the thing that I did struggle with quite a bit at first was the fact that it is really independent learning. I didn't feel as if I had as much support as what I did at college, because the college was still quite it was a bit more smaller, a bit more intimate environment, and you know, people were more to hand. Whereas at the university, I was expected to do a lot more stuff on my own. Basically, they did explain this to me at college, but having something explained to you and then actually experiencing it are two different things entirely. So when I was sort of like, well, what do you mean I'm in this education environment and now I've got to teach myself? But of course, that's not the case. But yeah, I think that was the biggest thing, was the reading, finding the time to read. You know, reading was absolutely mammoth. But again, I was warned about it, but I don't think I quite was expected for how big a task was at hand with that. So I think the reading and the independent learning is something to really sort of focus on. If I was to go back, that's what I would have really prepared myself for more so.
Okay, cool.
Other than that, I absolutely university. Yeah, it's lovely.
Cool. Right, so just on to kind of thinking, I guess, a bit more in the future. So what are your guys' future plans once you've obtained your degree? Obviously, James, you're doing a PhD, so those are your plans for the next 600 years, I guess.
Yeah.
You'll be an academic and you'll read lots of books. Unless I'm wrong and you want to, I don't really know what historians do when they leave education. Become accountants, I hear. But yeah, so James, if you do want to start us off, but I appreciate if your sort of future plans are just more of the same, go for it. And then Hadia, and then Jane.
something I forgot to mention from the last time. I'll just quickly pick up on this, that and Jane prompted this actually. My top tip for your third year is start your dissertation as early as possible. I started my dissertation, for example, in June, and it brought me a lot of extra time. It was just with regards to time management. Sorry, you reminded me of that, Jane. I meant to mention that previously. But on to my future plans. Well, I actually decided to do a bachelor's and then stop. And then I actually decided then to try and make myself more employable by then going and do a master's. And then COVID hit, and a lot of what I was going to go into, for example, I'm quite interested in research and archiving. Like, I've been volunteering at my university archives, for example, cataloguing and helping put the information from like about 100 years ago onto the system. Historians, when we do history degrees, historians, our degrees are quite cross transferable. So we have skills that can be used to do accountancy. They can be used to do, I don't know, reception work, customer service. So we you know, I'm doing a PhD primarily, well, not primarily. One of the reasons I'm doing a PhD is because my work has been highlighted as adding to the scholarship as an undergraduate. That's one reason. The other reason is, yeah, like I said, COVID has hit. So a lot of what I was going to go on to do, sadly, those doors are closed. My plans for the future are I either want to continue on researching, go into academia, for example. I'm working on, this is just as a hobby, and I'm working on teaching some friends, for example. I've put together a series of lectures and presentations. I got the idea from, I actually got the idea from Karen Weston, who is at Brunel. She's to do with the mature students. I'm helping her with something else which is similar. So I guess my future lays either in academia or doing research. Nature of the beast with history. When you do a history degree, when you're a historian, you do tend to kind of either go down one route, which is you come out of the field of history and you use your degree as a cross transferable, or you do like me, you stay in the field and you do a BA, you then do an MA, and then you do a PhD, or you do a MA, like a BA and MA, and then you go into something to do with that. But historians, we pretty much we always look back, or you go into a career of, for example, I'm writing a journal at the moment, which I hope to get published. So you can go down several different routes. So I'm although I'm doing a PhD, I'm keeping my options open, and you do find that, and I think you find this with any degree, but with history, that I tend to, at the moment, say with COVID, for example, I'm quite lucky in the sense of I can look back on historic events and stuff like that, and then I will write about that, and that hopefully will get me published. So, but yeah, that's my plans for the future, is either trying to stay in academia, staying in research, or publishing. So yeah, something along those lines.
Cool. Okay. And Hadia, I suppose it's probably one of the worst things to ask a third year undergraduate is what your plans for the future, especially since it's only October. And so sorry if this is a bit cruel, but do you have plans for the future yet?
Well, let's see if I get my degree first. But
yeah.
I'm planning to do a master's in City University for cybersecurity. And then once I'm during my 1 year master's, I'll probably get a part-time job, obviously, to help me financially fund for my master's. And after my master's, I intend to apply for a job as a cybersecurity engineer, or anything along those lines, depending on what I'm comfortable with. But right now, just planning to get my
get that degree out of the way, yeah.
The degree out of the way and get all my deadlines sorted, and then I'll think about masters. Maybe I'll try to take a gap year in between to go traveling. Maybe I'll just do my master and then go travel. Well, I haven't decided on what I want to do first, but it's just a degree first.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, that's the priority. Yeah. And can I ask, Hadia, so you said you did your access course in business studies, and now obviously you're doing computer networks, and then you're hoping to go into cyber security. So that's quite, sort of academically, that's quite a big change. Was there anything in particular that kind of made you think, yeah, okay, actually I want to go more towards kind of technology?
So basically, I wasn't. I originally planned to do law as well in uni, but my mom kind of knew that I can't do any reading or like reading courses.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Like you're not gonna do it. You're not gonna be able to pass it. She knows. And then she knew that around the house I was doing quite a lot with like all the technology stuff, like fixing her laptop or just any small tasks around the house, or even like just on the news as well, just go on the science and technology one, just fascinated. So she was like, why don't you just apply for something that you're quite keen in? So I just done that, and I'm okay with it. I'm in my third year now, and I'm getting along. And it's quite surprising because it's like I'm the only like 2 out of 100 students. I'm the only girl in my course.
Yeah.
But it's quite good, as I feel like quite lucky as well, because the lecturers are quite giving me the first like opportunity, and then they're like, okay, we're gonna send her out to seminars and things like that to students about how a woman should be in science and technology, like that. It's quite good. I've been getting really good experiences, and and cybersecurity, it's quite similar to what I'm doing right now, but it's just obviously in my master's it's just going to be one particular thing. But yeah, that's about it.
Cool. Yeah, it's really interesting. I was just kind of wondering. Yeah, and I guess it's also that there are more kind of slightly clearer kind of career paths out of the kind of the technology route, which is helpful, obviously, kind of moving forward. So it seems like a smart choice to me. Cool. So on to you, Jane. So what are you planning to do once you've got your degree?
Right, once I've got my degree, well, because I was going to go into mental health nursing when I was doing the access, but this sort of catastrophic event happened whilst I was in my course. So it was advised that I do psychology, because it didn't actually close any doors on me, but it opened some. While studying at Brunel, I have come across that they do a master's in social work. So yeah, I'm going to stay on to do the master's in social work at Brunel, and that's what I want to do. And I would like to go on to do a PhD, but I would like to work in social work for at least 2 or 3 years to sort of get a feel for it, and go on to do a PhD maybe in counselling as well. But sort of the pandemic is even more, it's really given me this enthusiasm, because I do voluntary work around mental health. It's absolutely crazy out there at the moment, so they're screaming out for people that have got life experience around this stuff, you know. So yeah, Brunel, I love it at the university. It's a really nice place to study. All the support, everything that I need to progress in education is absolutely there. So, you know, but I will work as well whilst I'm studying. I have to, because I'm a single mum, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, cool. Okay, so we've had a question come through around structuring your personal statement, and what I'm going to do is I'm not going to ask you guys to answer that, but what I'm going to ask my colleague Mel to do is to kind of reply to the question, just because we have, hopefully you guys have seen a collection of kind of videos that our university partners produced, and there are a few on personal statements, so I think you'll probably find those really helpful, and we'll also share the slides for those with the recording to this event. So we'll send those around, because I think just kind of talking through the structure of a personal statement might be a little bit difficult to then translate into actually, okay, well, how do I write my personal statement? So we'll send those around. So thank you to whoever kind of asked that question. It's obviously, a very valid one. But yeah, my colleague Mel's gonna post the videos there while I grab another question. So okay, so this is one that you might find difficult, you might find easy, but if you could tell like your past self, so the person who's maybe just started their access course, if you could tell them kind of like one big thing that you've learned, either about applying to uni, the access course itself, your uni course, what would it be? So let's start with James. Sorry, maybe a bit of a tough question, but
I suppose One big thing for me that I would love to go back and be able to tell myself in hindsight is don't put too much pressure on yourself. I set myself quite a high standard. For example, when I did my access course, they did a end of module assignment, and I wrote it about, I always remember it, I wrote it about Picasso's Guernica, which is in the Basque Country in Spain. And I got an 81%, which is a distinction. So I'd set the bar quite high. And then when I got my first set of results from Brunel, my grades were coming back at 65, 66s, and I was quite disappointed in myself. I was thinking, oh, what's going on? So, and then I found out what the marking structure is at a 65, 66, etc. It's a 2-1. So I guess for me, and I've just got my master's results back as well, and I am quite harsh and self-critical of myself. So, for example, this is not to sound big-headed, this is just stating as a fact. My undergraduate dissertation got a 70%, for example, which is a first. Yeah. My master's dissertation has got a 66%, which is a merit. So if you put that into an undergraduate scheme, that's a 2-1. But I'm quite critical of myself and thinking to myself, you know, this is not acceptable. This is to myself. It's like, this is not acceptable. However, what I have to remember is I've done my hardest. I've worked my hardest. I've produced the best work that I can. So I just wish I could go back a little bit and go, you know, look at those grades again a little bit more critically and constructively. And those grades were pretty decent, because overall my undergraduate degree for my BA I got a 2-1 overall, and then for my masters I had a merit for my masters. So I just wish I could go back in hindsight and go, don't be as critical of yourself. Just, you know, you've done your best. So that would be the thing that I would love to tell myself.
That's very wise. It's sort of not really the answer I was expecting, but I think it's a really good one. I think we can all be quite harsh on ourselves, particularly like you say, if you do really well in kind of like a first assignment, and then from then on it's almost like all downhill from there. But really, it's, you know, you started off really high and then you're just leveling out really, as opposed to kind of a catastrophic failure. So Hadia, what do you think you would tell your past self if you could? Like one big thing you learned.
Personally, I've quite all the time when I was doing my access course, I would always compare my grades with like my classmates. And it was always like she was getting distinctions and I was getting merits, and always to come home feeling so low of myself. One day I remember I worked really hard for one of my assignments and I got a distinction, and then she got a merit. So I was just inside. I was like, okay, look, you feel, you know how I feel now. But yeah, it's all about yourself. I think you shouldn't compare. Like now, if I go back, I shouldn't have compared myself with her, because everyone has their own abilities. Everyone has a strength in themselves on what they can do better, and someone else can't. So I would just say, plan your assignments, which I wasn't really good at. Plan them in advance, and don't leave anything to last minute, and just believe in yourself and just try get through the work I would say as quickly as possible, but just try to do it before the deadline, or just send it back to your teachers for some improvement and stuff, so he or she can send it back to you, and then you can make it a good piece of work. And yes, don't stop comparing yourself to other people, because maybe their future isn't the same as yours, or you're not going to be doing what they're going to be doing. So it's everyone's life's different. Don't compare, and just believe in yourself.
Yeah, again, some very, very wise words. We've got some very wise student ambassadors here. Cool. So Jane, if you've got a top tip, would love to hear what it is.
Yeah, basically, it's just to reiterate what's been said as well. You know, I think the most important thing that I would say to myself is that as soon as I was given sort of any indication of what the questions were going to be around, to start structuring my assignments as early as possible, and just at least getting something down so that I can edit it as I go along, rather than sort of leaving it till, you know, like deadlines were coming up and then trying to get it all down. It's easier to write something as you go along, and then that time that I actually spent doing the assignment, I could actually have improved on what I already had. And as well, but you know, because I'm a mature student, and I've been out of education for quite a long time, I've picked up some tips along the way from my older children, and flashcards and things like that. You know, when I was preparing for exams, I wish that I'd have put flashcards around my kitchen for when I was cooking and stuff like that. You know, just to sort of reinforce the information that I needed to remember. Just simple things really to do with studying, you know, maths and post-it notes in areas, just preparing my assignments early on and getting all the information and gathering it together, like I say, rather than sort of leaving things until they sort of needed to be done. To start really early and get the reading in as well, and share resources with your students. Get together in a little club, revision club is really, really useful, because I didn't start doing that until the end of my second year at university, and my grades improved when I started doing these things, you know, so it does work, it really does. Yeah.
Cool. Thanks for that. So I've got a question that's come through on the Q&A around, do you have any tips for students on sort of getting ready to go to uni? So I guess we're thinking a little bit later in the year, kind of sort of after the summer. Any tips on preparing to actually go, James?
Yeah, I guess for me, I was quite fortunate. I actually built up a rapport with my personal tutor. I'm going to use Brunel because Brunel is my best experience. So I built up a rapport with my personal tutor. I actually went and met my personal tutor before the academic year started. Also, I had a look on, we use the system at Brunel, which is called Blackboard Learn. I think most universities use Blackboard Learn. And it listed all the courses, all my modules on there, and it gave, and this is touching on what Jane just said a minute ago, and it listed all my courses, all my module guides were on there, and it told me when my actual deadlines were. So it told me when my essay deadlines were. So I made myself a schedule of when my essays were due and gave myself time. So that was one of my tips, was looking through and preparing in that sense of what modules you got, when they are, and like planning in time around it. I also looked at the reading list to have a look at and seeing what books were being recommended to read, to look at. Again, it was also, this is touching on what Jane said previously as well in her last response. I was also getting in touch with other students that were on my course as well. I formed actually a friendship with a bunch of people at Brunel, and we actually revised together throughout our time at Brunel. We actually and we all came out pretty well in our exams at the end of our third year. We all passed. There was 8 of us in total, and we were studying in the library until late every single day in the run up to our exams, I remember. But it was forming that core group as well in those early days, and it made life easier. So when I actually arrived at Brunel, I already knew people that were there. It wasn't just I was jumping in and there was no one there that I knew. I actually had already made some groundwork, so I actually knew people that were already there waiting, and that I could actually form a friendship with, and that I knew would actually be able to, be able to work with. So those are literally my tips. Just to recap this: looking at the system, like whatever system you use. In our case, it's Blackboard. Having a look at those module guides, getting prepared in terms of what what essays you got, when they are throughout the academic year. In my case, I even actually started one of my essays before actually I even went. For example, I actually prepared for it, because in the first half of the term up until reading week, you tend not to actually do much anyway, especially in the first couple of years. So I actually used that time wisely to get prepared, and it actually helped because I actually ticked off one of those essays even before the essay deadline was due. And yeah, like Jane said as well, is try and get yourself together in a group, make connections, speak to your personal tutors. And also what I did was I introduced myself to each lecturer as well. I said, hi, this is who I am. And that's actually carried me throughout, and that's another reason why my department was so keen for me to take on a PhD and has been so supportive as they are. I'm dyslexic as well, so I actually hold a DDS profile. So my other tip was I made my university aware, and I actually got assessed within my first year at Brunel that I was actually dyslexic as well. And that's actually helped put in place more support for me to help me achieve the best that I can. So yeah, those are my tips really.
Cool. Well, I think they're all really helpful. Yeah, I definitely think on the kind of on the dyslexia point, I do think that any access student now who might be thinking, oh, a few people have pointed out maybe I've got like some form of learning difficulty or whatever, but I can't really be bothered with the fuss of like getting an assessment or anything like that. Now's the time to do it. Being in full-time education is the time to get those kinds of assessments so that you can get any kind of extra help, whether that's financial, particularly when you go to university, or if it's like technological, like getting a laptop and stuff like that. Don't underestimate it. I have a friend who's just started an access course. She's 21 and she's just been kind of put forward for a dyslexia assessment, and it's not something she'd ever really considered while working, but I kind of said no. You know, during education, that's when you've got to do it, because that's where you can get the support. When you become like just a person in the professional world, that you don't really get dyslexia assessments, not if you have to go through the local authority. So yeah, definitely a really good point, James. Thank you for highlighting that.
Just to say on that dyslexia front, if I can.
Yeah, of course.
With like I left school in 2000. I was assessed at school for dyslexia, and that's how I know I had dyslexia. When I went into that professional world, they wanted me to look at getting assessed again, but I would have had, like you said, I could have gone through local authority or privately, but I would have had to have paid for those. Speak to your college, university, whoever you're doing it through, because 9 times out of 10 they have a specialist department. We've got the DDS at Brunel, and they will actually fund it for you. So but check before you do anything. So that's yeah, it's a really good point. So Hadia, I've completely forgotten what like the original question was. Was it, what were we doing? Were we doing past self?
Tips for getting ready for university.
That's it, getting ready to go. Thank you, Mel. Gosh. So tips on getting ready to go. What would you recommend?
So once you've decided on where you want to go, it's better if you start joining like social groups, especially if you don't know anyone going to that university. So I know for me, when I was the only one going to Middlesex, I didn't know anyone, no family, no friends, no one. So when I enrolled at Middlesex, they sent out some social joining, like Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp groups. So you can start joining some societies and start getting to know people on your course around you, and that way you're not, when you go on your first day, you're not alone. So that's quite good. Other than that, I would say once you've enrolled, you can have an access to your what do you call it? Because we call it UniHub, so it's probably like a dashboard or the portal page. You start planning your modules, go through your assessment, through all your module handbooks, see what's needed, do some extra research, do some reading. Try to obviously not be ahead, but just be like a bit aware of what is coming. Nothing else. Just don't be afraid. They're all going to be at the same stage as you, all in the same shoes, and just be as friendly and just speak up if you have any problems. Speak to anyone around you. Speak to any staff, any members, and I'm sure they will help you anything you need.
Cool, thanks, Adia. And so, Jane, what kind of tips would you give someone who is just about to go to university?
Well, Brunel's quite it's a very fully self-supporting campus. It's quite vast, and one of the things I would say is sort of visit where you're going, get to know where the rooms are, where the lecture halls are, where all the resources and the facilities. so that sort of you're not all of a sudden on a last minute dash trying to find a lecture hall or a room where you've got to do some practical study. You know, also as well, going through your Blackboard Learn, whichever system it is that the university that you're going to be going to uses, finding out what your modules are going to be and getting the best deal that you can on books. You know, books can be quite expensive, so if you shop around a little bit, Amazon I found were brilliant. I always went for the second-hand ones. I've got some of them at a ridiculously cheap price, and there was absolutely nothing wrong with them. I was getting books for like that meant to be £50s and £60s, and I was paying like £5 and £6 for them, which is unbelievable savings for someone that's on a budget. As well, work out what your route's going to be, try and find the easiest route. And again, with budgeting, you know, get to know what your budget is, find out where you're going to eat and how much money you're looking at spending. Don't sort of leave it to the last minute and then you find yourself short that you haven't got your fares or you haven't got enough to eat. And, you know, if you're taking in lunch and things, find out if there's facilities to cook and study areas, those kind of things I think found are really useful. You know, and as well, as been said, groups and getting involved with the university, gyms, teams, sport. Brunel's got it's got every team. We've even got wheelchair basketball, which is absolutely amazing. Yeah, it's great. So yeah, find out what's going on. We've got thespian groups, we've got music, there's art, and a lot of the stuff. And also at Brunel, because I can only speak for Brunel because that's where I go, obviously. But once you go into your second year, they offer you language courses for free if you're already a student, and the music and the art classes are all free too to current students. So find out what's available to you at your university, because there could be vastly so much more on offer than just, you know, having your course to sort of to go ahead with it. And it can sort of it can really open up your world for you in another way as well. So yeah, just have a look, really study what's going on there and where you're going and what you're doing.
Cool, that was really helpful, thank you. I definitely remember, yeah, like my first week at uni, like I left my flat so early to go to like a lecture or a seminar, because I was just like, I do not understand how these rooms are numbered. Like at my uni, it was like, if you were on like the basement, it was like 0, 1. And I was like, I don't understand, why don't you just use -1? So just like, even just stuff like that is stuff that you don't really think about. It's particularly on like an open day, if you actually go physically, you won't necessarily get a feel for that because you're probably just sort of following a student ambassador around. But yeah, just like the logistics of just like getting somewhere, I think are really important. And particularly like these days, if you're not able to go to an open day, but you are still going to end up living on campus, you're maybe not going to be that familiar with the campus, you're not going to know where you're going. So like leaving early to get to a seminar, I think that was always what I used to do. And I just like lurk outside the classroom, so like a little weirdo. Cool. So a question on the Q&A. What do you guys think is the most important thing about making your choice, the right uni or the right course? So James, you go first.
Oh, blimey. For me, it was a bit of both. If I'm honest, when I was making my choice, I looked at Reading. I didn't actually go round Reading. Actually, I went to Brunel on a one-to-one open session. And met some of the lecturers, and I decided Brunel was right for me. I looked at it in terms of location from where I'm based, in terms of cost, what was offered by Brunel. Again, and that ties into what the right course was. I myself, it sounds very morbid in that when I say it, and not a cheerful subject, but I'm a Holocaust historian, so my expertise is the Second World War and the Holocaust. So Brunel offered that kind of course for history at Brunel. Other universities didn't offer the exact modules that I was looking at, and I knew that if I chose one of these other universities, that course wouldn't actually produce my best work. So it was a little bit of both. It was looking at the right university and the right course. That was for my bachelor's. for my masters, it was pretty much similar. I was looking at what kind of was on offer in terms of course wise, and I actually did a language alongside my masters last year. I've learned Italian last year, so that was what swung it for me as well, as I wanted to learn the language. Don't test me because my Italian is not that great, unfortunately. I can say good morning to you, which is buongiorno.
I know that, yeah.
And I can say io sono James, which is my name, but that's about the extent of my Italian. But
it's an additional skill still, isn't it? Yeah.
It's an additional skill. So, and I felt I would get that more with Brunel. I've just noticed, I believe this question is from Andrew Jones, I believe. He also asked about the application process and if I had an interview as well, or if anyone's had an interview. I actually had an interview with mine.
Oh, okay. The reason I didn't ask it was because I thought from the subject range, I thought, probably not. But that's really interesting.
So I can actually tie that in. I'm actually tying that in with my answer. Actually, this is what actually helped swing where I went to. By the way, so that's why I thought up the relevancy in my answer. I had an interview because I was transferring from the university to Brunel. So and then I've actually just had an interview for to go on to do a PhD, as you can probably appreciate. My tips are: prepare yourself. Don't be worried. They are not testing you in the slightest. All they want to do is they want to get an idea and feel of what level of ability that you have, what you are like as a person. So, for example, when I did, and this applies equally for my PhD as it did back when I was transferring from the access to Brunel, they are trying to find out if you are motivated. If basically, because what you have to do is, when I did mine, I had to get a statement from my academic tutor at that time to prove that I was a student and tell them about what I was as a student. So when I transferred and they were asking me, they were trying to marry up basically what was being said by my academic tutor to what I was saying on my personal statement. It made life easy because the questions that they were asking quite clear. They were basically asking what we were saying at the start. What were we hoping to get out of that degree? So what were our long-term goals? Was there any particular reason we were doing it? And they were basically, in that interview as well, they were setting the expectations of what the university was expecting from you as a student. They were able to answer any questions. So the interview process was there. Yes, it is a formal interview because they are wanting to know if they want to accept you as a student. However, provided that you've prepared, provided that you have a passion for whatever subject, I've got a great passion for history, but that's obviously, but that's just me. Providing you can provide a valued reason, you're just not doing it. For example, I know of one student who came to Brunel, for example, who's no longer a student, who just came to student life and life at university because they wanted to party. That's not the right reason. As long as you can give them a reason why you want to come and study, they don't mind. So it's not a thing to be worried about as an interview. It's just to prove that you can contribute and that you are motivated enough that you are going to be a valuable member of the student community and that you've got it in you that you're going to do a degree. So yeah, I hopefully that answers your question, Andrew. But that's my experience anyway of the interview. I don't know about if anyone else has had an interview, but I certainly did have one. And I thought I'd type and just to say, and that is the reason that I actually chose Brunel, because that interview process was quite straightforward, and they were actually, and I felt that I would get a lot more out of Brunel than the other ones that I'd approached. So that's why I bring up.
No, I think that's a really good point. I think in general, kind of an interview in any context, but particularly for university, is as much about you getting a feel for the university and saying, okay, yeah, I definitely do want to pick you, because it's a two-way kind of relationship. It's not just the university picking you, it's you picking them as well. And they want you because, yeah, at the end of the day, like, you're going to be, you know, paying fees, aren't you? So they need students. That's how universities work. So I think it's good to see it as just kind of like, it's a chat. It's about getting a feel for each other. Yeah.
I gelled with my lecturer. The lecturer who did the interview, it was just, and like, funny enough, she's actually my supervisor for my PhD. I clicked with her straight away, and I thought, right, I can have a professional working relationship with you. So yeah. Cool, thank you for that.
So that goes to Hadia. What do you think is the most important, the right uni or the right course?
I would say the right course. Personally, because there were so many unis out there, but they didn't do the course I wanted to do. And Middlesex was the only uni that done my course, so I didn't even look at what ranking Middlesex was, or what, like, because obviously people do look at the rankings of a uni, like they see if it's a good one, if it's in the top one, but that didn't really bother me as long as I done what I wanted to do. So I looked into Middlesex Computer Networks, and surprisingly, it was one of the only networks labs in the whole of London, which was a plus point for me, because I knew that they could provide the facilities I would need to carry my studies out. Also, I don't know, I just felt like I didn't even go to any other open days. I just went to Middlesex, and that's it. I applied to Brunel, I applied to Bournemouth, I applied to City, I applied for a few more, but I don't know, I just chose Middlesex and I just went for it. Nothing else. That I just got the course, and that was about it. It didn't really bother me if it wasn't a good ranking uni, or it wasn't in the top 10, but because I feel like if I just do the course and it's me who's going to be studying, if I get the grades if I get the grades and I get this degree, I can go to any other top uni to do my masters. That would just level it out for me, and then automatically academically I would just look good on my CV. So it didn't really bother me. I would say just look at your course and see what your course provides. The course provides you, and yeah, that's about it.
Cool, thanks. And Jane, same question to you: uni or course?
Yeah, I think initially it was the course that I searched for. I looked to see which universities were doing the course that I wanted to apply for, and then after that it sort of came down to then it was distance. Really. Yeah. Was I able to travel to and from every day and still be able to continue to work and carry out my studies efficiently? And I think, I did sort of look at reputation, but I was quite fortunate in the fact that Brunel University, which is quite close to me anyway, it's the closest of the universities, offered me a place. So I was quite chuffed with that. You know, initially when I applied to all the universities, Brunel was my sort of like, I really want to go there. I really want to go there. And when I got made the offer, it didn't really matter about the reputation, although it has got a good reputation. You know, so I think the course, first of all, was that I needed to check that they did the course that I wanted to do, and then that I could meet the requirements for that course, and then was it possible for me to be able to get there efficiently and be able to study. Of course, that's not a problem. I mean, if you're staying on campus, then of course you would have to have a look at accommodation and stuff like that. You know, could you be accommodated there? Could you live on campus? Do you need to find accommodation nearby? I think they'd be quite important factors for somebody who's not going to be able to commute long distances. And, you know, I mean, I don't know at the moment what it's going to be like next year neither. We're sort of in a little bit of limbo at the moment as to where we're going to be. So I think these are quite important things to look at as well for next year.
Definitely, yeah. No, thanks, guys. I think there's some really kind of insightful comments, and definitely, like, it's always something that I used to say. Like, I used to be a student ambassador when I was doing my undergraduate degree, and I always used to say, yeah, it was the course for me, because there's no point going to a university that is, you know, in the top 10 or whatever, but you hate your classes. That's the point. You're there to get a degree. Yeah, you're there to maybe enjoy student life and kind of, you know, engage with the societies and stuff like that, but what you come out with at the end is a degree, and if you hated every minute of it, you probably won't do that well. So yeah, my mum, like, I didn't apply to a single Russell Group university. I'd been predicted very good A levels. I'm very, like, I'm very academic, and my mum was just begging me. She was like, please just put Warwick on there, go on, just do it. And it's like, well, but they don't do the course I want. I'm not going to apply to do American history when actually what I want to do is American literature, and they don't offer what's right for me. Why would I go somewhere to study something I don't care about? There's simply no point. And I think at the end of the day, and like when it comes to kind of how good a university is, it's all about proving what you get from a course, and showing kind of any prospective employer or whatever what you gained, because really most employers don't care that much, in my experience, what university you went to. They want to know what you did while you were there. Some like big, you know, finance or consultancy firms might care if you went to Oxbridge, but beyond that, it's really, really rare, I think, that employers care that much. They don't know about university rankings. Yeah, they know some of the big names, but as long as you've got the degree and you can talk about it, that's kind of what matters. So I'm definitely on the right course side of the fence, just in case I didn't make that clear enough. So I think that's kind of sort of covered most of our questions. I don't know about you guys, but I'm getting quite thirsty, and we've run over an hour, and I'm not seeing massive amounts of questions in the Q&A. Oh, okay.
We've got a nice one to finish up on, Jess,
yeah.
I think.
Yeah, definitely. So what would you say to an Access student who wasn't sure whether to go to uni or not? So let's start with James.
Ooh, yeah, I actually faced this dilemma because I didn't know what to do. So I actually looked at it of what I was actually wanting to achieve. Was I just doing this degree for a pure hobby?
Mm-hmm.
Was I looking at it in terms of using it to be able to change career? It started off, the reason I started off on an Access course was because actually a relative of mine passed away, and I'd been left a sum of money. Mm-hmm. And I decided to follow up on my passion for history. I actually wanted to do an A-level originally. Mm-hmm. In history, and the local college to me turned around and said, no, sorry, you're too old, we don't take it. So I thought, right, I will show them. I will go off and I will do an Access course and I will get a degree.
Yeah.
So that's what actually spurred me on, was like to prove the college wrong. In hindsight, I wish I could now go back and go, look, I've actually now got a BA and MA and I'm doing a PhD. So yeah, that'd be a little bit pompous. But but I was very unsure if it was the right thing for me. However, I then sat down and we went through a change of management. I worked for a major telecommunications company here in the UK. And we went through a great big change of management, and we were looking at merging with another telecommunications company. I worked for O2 and we were looking at merging with Free. So my job security was looking a little bit uncertain. Mm-hmm. And as I mentioned, I've got a great big passion for history. I could go on all day talking about it because I don't want to bore you. And but I decided that at that moment in time that I no longer loved my job. My job was, I was a manager. I was working about 45 hours a week, unpaid some of those hours.
Yeah.
I didn't like I still do like my technology, but I just didn't like working with technology anymore. Mm-hmm. And the more I'd gone through studying history, I decided that I wanted to be able to change career. So it's look at what your situation is. So what are you hoping to achieve from it? So for me, I've used it, I wanted to change career, which it's allowed me to do. Yeah, I've given up my job completely now, and I'm a full-time student, and I've worked part-time as a student ambassador and other jobs that I do. I was tutoring an undergraduate during the summer to help him with his degree, so I picked up. So that's what helped me. It's just like deciding what I wanted to do, deciding if university was the right move for me. And yeah, ultimately it was the right move for me. I built up some. I know Jane, for example. I've met Jane personally. Built up great rapport with most of the people that I come into contact with. You know, so for me, it was all about that. I was looking at my individual situation. I think this ties into something that Melanie was stating earlier in the chat, which was like, how do I find juggling my life? And it was just like the case of, I was trying to, as I mentioned earlier, I was trying to study like 16 hours a week and work all these hours that God sends. And I just decided, you know what, I can't do this anymore. And I decided, yeah, I quite like the academic side and I wanted to get my degree. So that's kind of what spurred me on. So yeah.
Yeah, cool. Thank you for that. And then Hadia, yeah, kind of same question to you, like, someone who isn't sure.
Yeah. So basically, like I said before, I had to take a gap year. So access course was my only option to go to a university, as I was too old to do my A-level. So I knew I wanted to go to uni, but I didn't know what course I wanted to do.
Yeah.
So hence I chose business studies, because I knew if I just done any access course, I could just go to uni and just do the course. So I've done business studies because it's like I would say like an easy subject, which is quite like easy to understand and everything. So I done a business access course, and then I got onto computer networks. So it all depends on you or what you want to do. Some people might just do an access course and go into work and just do a practical like an apprenticeship or something. But I knew I wanted to get a degree. I knew I wanted to even do masters, because that's what I've been told my life, that you need to have education in your life in the future to educate your kids. So yeah, I'm hopefully gonna do my degree this year and then do my masters, and then plan on to do a job or maybe start a family or whatever in the future. But yeah, I think it's believing in yourself and thinking what you want to do. Sit down and see what your options are, because not everyone might have. You might not even have the facilities to go uni. You might not even have the financial funds to go to uni. So you have to see what's your option. Because maybe apprenticeship might be a better option for you. You might be getting education, you might be getting work, and you might be getting paid at the same time. So it's all you.
Yeah. Cool, thank you for that. And then Jane, same question to you. And I guess also, thinking about your situation, Jane, like you said, you're a single mum, and so how did that kind of factor into your decision to actually okay, I'm going to go to uni? Because it's a big commitment, isn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, I can only speak from an individual's point of view, and I don't know, I can't actually see the audience that I'm speaking to.
Oh no,
I can only sort of go by myself. I mean, I'm 50 now. I was past my mid-40s when I decided to do the access course. I had a small child and plus older children as well. But I think it's important. It's not that I'm being personal about myself, but I'm going to a little insight into my background. My background is that I come from a low socio-economic status, uneducated background. I lived on what you would call a social housing council estate. There was a lot of domestic violence in my life as well, so I was in this fearful, trapped environment of children. And as well, I'm an addict and an alcoholic in recovery. This is what sort of spurred me on to want to go on to help people, because of why I'm here in that area. So what happened was, when I decided that I was going to get into education, and I decided that I did want to get a degree. And what I can say to anybody that's thinking about going to university, if you've got the opportunity, then absolutely take it. Because what it's done for me, it's allowed me to step out of a bubble that I've been in all of my life. And education absolutely gives you power. There's no two ways about it. I'm able to converse and talk to people on a different level, people that I thought wouldn't even want to speak to me before. It's given me more self-confidence, self-esteem. It's broadened my horizons. It's enabled me to look further than what I ever was able to before. Also as well, it set the bar higher for my children. You know, my kids are now not looking to just be better than their sort of like barmaid mother. I'm sort of saying, listen guys, you know, I've gone into education and I've done it, whilst bringing all you lot up and cooking and your washing and everything else. You better do well too, because it's expected of you and it is doable, and it's obvious that it is. But also as well, it's taught me the pressures of education as well. I've been able to take the gas off of my children too, and know that, you know, because I used to moan at them and go on about them, now I can speak to them on a level, and when they say they're struggling, I know they're struggling. I know that it's difficult. It's opened my eyes in many areas. But if you're younger, please don't wait until you've got to my age and created the problems that I created to decide to do it. If you have that opportunity now, grab it while you can, you know, because once you've got it, it's like having a driving license, you know. You cannot have it taken away from you. You know, it's yours to keep forever. So even if you just do you do your access, you do your university, and then you decide that you don't want to go down that road, you can always go back to it. You know, it can't be taken away from you, and it is such a fantastic feeling when you're given these certificates and you know you've really achieved something. You know, our brains are muscles and we use them, and university, the environment, it's not just about the certificate, it's about the people that we meet, you know, the way that we learn to converse, you know, it just opens up a whole new world to us, which enables us to then, you know, be more efficient in broader areas of our lives that we didn't even know were there. So I would strongly recommend it to anybody. There are other avenues you can go down, but if you do have the opportunity, grab it. You know, it's nothing's written in stone. If you really hate, you can always leave it, but I don't think you would if you sort of settled into it and got the most out of it. Yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you. Thanks very much, Jane. I think that was a very inspiring end to the session, I think. So I just want to say kind of thank you to those who attended and people who asked questions, but really thank you to Jane, James and Hadia for taking time out of their day to kind of talk about their experiences. It's much appreciated. And as I said, we'll be sending the recording rounds along with slides for our YouTube videos. But yeah, otherwise, have a lovely rest of your day. Yeah, thanks very much for coming. Thank you, everyone.